And we're joining Roland Walker, who's on standby with Dr. Lord Mensah, the University of Ghana, Legon, the Ghana Business School.
Speaking to a senior lecturer in the finance department of the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Lord Mensah is here with us. He's usually a regular guest on our show. And today we're about speaking on a wide range of issues. And particularly, well, Imani Ghana, they have issued a paper. Now, they know themselves as Imani Africa on the Menzgold Saga. But it's not only about Menzgold, but other derivatives that are being traded on the market. And whether Menzgold, per what the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Bank of Ghana, have been outlining and especially communicating in the public space, should fall under its own regulations. Well, we know what has happened to Menzgold, but we also know what the discussions have been around its activities and more so the turmoil and difficulties or the trepidations that customers would have to go through. We'll go through that conversation and then we'll round up with some market issues involving the finance minister, the finance ministry, and the whole economy, because we've had a rebasing of Ghana's economy that is going to now peg from 2013 would mean that the GDP in itself, it's going to increase further. But what are the ramifications? What will be the talking points for this? And going forward, how can we realign the various sectors of our economy with the main strategies for our growth or development? Dr. Lord Mensah, thanks for speaking to me. Good morning to you.
You're welcome, Roland.
Yeah, and you may have gone through the publication of Imani Ghana, and in relation to Menzgold and other, well, entities that seem to be trading on the market as well. What were your initial impressions on the paper?
Well, if you look at the genesis of all these happenings, you could see clearly that our institutions are not well integrated, because if you look at Menzgold, services that they render, playing a role as a company on a part to playing a role as minerals buying company. Then obviously it falls under SEC. If it's a minerals buying company, then of course Minerals Commission needs to regulate Menzgold. Now, Menzgold activities, looking at the other part of it, that is an investment company. They have a package for which you can buy into gold value. So for instance, Roland, you go into the market today, gold value is about 1,200. Now, they collect your money. In the next time you go back in about 3 months' time, maybe gold value has appreciated to about, let's say, 1,300. For which you won't own the gold, right? But then the difference of 100 Ghana will be, dropped into your account. So there will be kind of accumulation over the years, depending on the direction, the gold price goes over the month ahead. So if you put all together, it will tell you that this is purely an investment, which is a derivative package, if you categorize the various securities. And a derivative is one of the riskiest investments you can have. So normally, you don't hold it for long term. So if you're a Menzgold investor who has that package and you're coming to me for an advice, I will tell you that never hold that instrument for more than 9 months. The longest you can hold it will be for about 9 months, because beyond that, it becomes dangerous, because looking at the dynamics of gold price over the years. Now, this is a package where, now, in the past 1 month or so, gold prices have been coming down over the years. So the question is, would Menzgold reduce the value of people's investment beyond what they're expecting?
By way of the returns,
exactly. But that is not the case. Always the returns are increasing. So what they promise you going into the future, they give you an increment. There's no circumstance that an investor will say my value of an investment has reduced because it was tied to the value of gold on the market, and therefore gold price is coming down and all this. So let's shift to the regulatory aspect of it. Now, looking at this, and you look at sex mandatory, I mean, what sex is supposed to do
it's
in terms of, yeah, exactly.
The law that establishes.
Perfect. It tells you that this operations falls under, SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. If we are going by, operations, right, just defining a company by operations, then Menzgold purely falls under SEC. Now, on the other hand, Menzgold is also running a package for which you buy pseudo gold. Also, buying gold from the gold fields, right? Not gold fields as a company, but I'm mining.
On the, the fields that mine, so to speak.
Then it becomes purely minerals buying company. So
on one hand.
On one hand. So they fall under, Minerals Commission. Now, in the end, Ghana has a problem as a country. We always talk about having all the institutions, but then as to how they are integrated, how information flows across these entities is quite problematic. So, if you ask me, Menzgold has taken advantage of how we have problems as a country, in integrating our institutions, and they're playing on that, and that has been successful. More people have their investment with Menzgold. So if you ask me, now that, people's depositors funds have been locked in there in anticipation of, returns in the future, if you are to come in, right, as a regulator, you should be careful in a way. You need to look at the depositor's interest.
But that's too late now. But we'll come there. We'll come to it. Now let's do some history. Right. In 2015, according to the Security and Exchange Commission, they said they started doing some monitoring. They started doing some own dialogue, and they let men go free and say, well, we don't think that you fall under our purview. The Bank of Ghana, even at the beginning of 2016, began issuing warnings, well publicized or published in the media, to interested members of the general public to not trade with Menzgold because they perceived them to be risky if you do an interpretation of what the content is. Now, in what form should the communication be, or the interlinkages be with the overriding oversight institutions that are regulating whether it's derivatives or securities, and also the financial market, and even the mineral purchasing or assaying market, in such a way that the information flow could ensure that there's a proper regulation of an industry?
You see, it has to do with identification of the company. You see, Ghana, we identify company only by registration. If we identify companies by registration, then obviously we're going to have problems that, as we speak, we're having with Menzgold. Companies are not just identified by registration alone. When you are going to register, you indicate the kind of operations you are coming to do. So companies are also identified by their operations. And if by operations, because somebody can register a company in a particular shade for which on the market he might be operating in a different direction. So let me get you straight.
You're saying that Roland Walker Limited could, with the Registrar General, say that I'm trading in this and so business. Right. But you're saying that that is just a generic name. Right. And because of the absence of detail, I could go into the market and you're operating differently.
Yes, of course.
And then none of the institutions could know?
That is where I'm coming from. Then that is where the law takes its course. That is when
SEC will drop in, and then Menzgold will say, we don't fall under your purview because, happenings we registered as minerals buying company. Do you get what I'm saying? So we have to go back and then look at our laws by company's registration, not just registering the company by, by name and then, looking at it and say, we are coming to buy minerals. But then on the grounds, what are you operating on? For instance, you register a company as an enterprise. Enterprise can be anything. It could be services rendering. It could be buying goods and, selling it. and all those. So on the grounds, what is the monitoring mechanism to know exactly what you registered for is exactly what you are using it to operate? We don't have that in this country. Once the company is registered, we encourage registration and all those. But once the company is registered, the mechanisms to follow up on how the company is operating in relation to what it registered for, we don't have it in this country.
Okay. So you're saying that it doesn't necessarily need to be the Registrar General's department that needs to be doing that.
Exactly.
But it needs to have that linkages with the other institutions or an entity that will go and do
grounds for
supervision to get to know exactly what is happening.
Is that why
in
we
there.
find ourselves where we are, with the plethora of companies operating?
I believe
and
that.
then by the time we see we're in the
that is my belief, that we have problems on follow-ups.
Now, Imani raises a certain point in its write-up. And it says, to date, not a single Menzgold professional with a financial investment planning background has been found after a detailed review of their employee records using LinkedIn and investigators on the grounds. This, coupled with the fact that they do not understand or accept that they are in any form of the securities and investment categories listed in Act 2 or 929, through which short-term financial returns can be generated, raises serious concerns about the basic professional capacity of the company. But, well, they are selling instruments. People are happy to buy.
Well, they are. You see, where Iman is coming from, I think they have a case as well. Because if you are an investment company, you don't take anybody at all to be at the front desk or to be at the background to do the analysis. Because this is a typical investment for which, if price should go, away or from what you are expecting, can distort the whole investment structure. So the capacity that you need to hold up such investment, company is very, very key. Now, those who are at the helms of affairs when it comes to managing this kind of investment are normally highly sophisticated analysts, So if you pick anybody at all without that background of analytical finance, right, then it's going to be a problem. But of course, I won't force them so much on this because they've indicated that they are minerals buying company. So therefore, they're operating as such. So the minerals buying company, you won't need that, sophisticated financial analyst to go and, manage as the prospect of gold price, the prospect of how the market will be, and all those. So I think Menzgold, looking at what they registered for human capacity, they are operating within the spheres of...
The first time I saw the adverts and all the information going out now publicly, even though we're told that they have been training for some time now, my mind streamed to the market in India, in which I had watched documentaries, interacted with people who work in Ghana of Indian descent, who say there were initiatives and schemes in India in which you could trade in gold plates and coins, etc., even normal jewelry, and then you get some returns, as if it's a storehouse, like the way you find in Switzerland a safe there and it's for safekeeping, but this time you get returns. Was that a clone of what Menzgold wanted to do in Ghana?
Well, I can't go straight and say that because of the way they were registered as minerals buying company, gold buying company, and in the end, their packages that they have ended up trading on gold value, for which the value of every investment is derived from the actual dynamics of gold. The market when it comes to investment is quite sophisticated. You can have markets where you're talking about Switzerland, where the gold, if you buy gold, you end up having the gold itself, That is a purely underlying transaction for which the fundamentals are clear. You are buying the actual thing. But then on the other hand, if you look at the hierarchies of investment, I can say if someone is trading the kind of package Menzgold have now, it's quite premature. It's quite premature in the sense that we live in a country where, if you understand the graduation of investors' confidence over years whilst it grows up in the investment world, you come to know that those who end up investing in treasury bills are even those, they are all investment. even those who were holding savings accounts, about 80% of them graduate into treasury bills. Then from treasury bills, you graduate into possibly bonds, which gives you some assurance, right? But then with that transition, you get to know that you remember, and the investor's risk appetite increases the more he takes on investment. So he graduates from bonds, then he moves on to equity. Now from equity, that is when, you know, your confidence has grown to a level where you have to build up into things that you cannot actually own, but then you play on the dynamics of what those, you know, the prices of those assets. So that is what exactly, you know, one of the services of Menzgold is now, and that is where SEC wants to come in, because it's purely an investment for which Ghana, as we stand now, the understanding of the investment space, how people understand the financial world, you know, we've not graduated to that level yet. So for me, I believe that it is premature if we should have a product of that sort in this country. Okay. But then looking at the returns that goes with it, you are likely to attract more people into it, because the returns, because it's normally risky, the returns are always high, for which you will not get any other investment on short-term basis to give you such returns. What do you
economists say? The higher the risks,
of course, the more the returns.
Okay.
But then it's not always.
There's a level where you can get to where you can take on the risk, but you don't get returns.
Let's look at the regulations. Bank of Ghana, Minerals Commission, of course, that will be for trading in gold, and then also the Security and Exchange Commission for derivatives. If under normal circumstance, well, Roland Gold was established and I wanted to do the form of investment or trading that Menzgold was doing, what would have been the criteria by which I would have been benchmarked and accepted to be trading on the market? What did I need to have?
Very good. It depends on your service definition, what you're coming to do. Now, as we speak now, we've narrowed Menzgold as an investment company because it takes people's deposit and then in the long term or in the short term they come for returns. So it is an investment company. However, if you are coming to operate, that double line of operations, right? Institutions need to identify what the interest in your business to get to know that, fine, if you're a minerals buying company, you should have a license from Minerals Commission. If you are an investment company, right, you should get a license from SEC. So that integration should come from both institutions. And you yourself as a company, you should know better to understand that if you register as one, a minerals buying company, and you end up operating in a different line, it exposes your business. You should understand the sustainability of your business as well. So in the end, you don't register and then go and add up, your production lines, for which in the end it will fall under a different regulations. Then it exposes you. So if you ask me now, all those who wants to invest, who had wanted to invest in Menzgold, and they were seeking my advice, I just told them they have to be careful because, every business that you are doing, that there's no transparency, because business is about trust, and especially when it comes to financial world, the business in the financial world, it's about trust. Now, where there's no disclosure, where there are so many questions in terms of how the business is operating, right? You have to be careful, where you put the money.
Well, there could be disclosures. There could be open publication of statements and reports, but it could be fake. We have Benny Madoff, who is now in prisons, doing jail time, 50 years and more, even now racking up to 75. It's still in there. But there was a statement that was issued by Menzgold on the 25th of September 2018, and it says, the gold collectibles offered for trade by our patrons of our gold vault market products subject to our quality controls, etc. Now it says any act, order or instructions therefore designed or decree to forbid Menzgold from trading makes it impossible to generate any revenue whatsoever, out of which extra values are charged and paid to those entitled.
Right.
Now this was at a time when they've not been trading.
Sure.
And so there was an interview that was granted on JoyNews to a deputy of the Security and Exchange Commission who said that they've not stopped them from paying dividends or paying off, but they've just stopped them from taking on new customers. But this one is indicating if they don't take in more customers, they can't pay you your dividend or even make you do the liquidation of your investment, so to speak. What does it tell you?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, if you understand the business very well, you'll get to know that financial services, if supposed to be, it's about, you know, taking from here and then giving it out on the right. So those who want to invest and, you know, those who need the money and possibly those where you want to invest it, you know, obviously it has to be two-way, you know, two directions. Somebody is giving and then somebody needs it, or an environment needs to be placed in an environment for you to realize those returns. But then if it happens that you stop, you know, the company from taking in, then the question is, what has been invested, right, needs to generate to come and what? Feed those who are, you know, who are entitled to those, that investment. You break the chains of what? Investment. Now, the financial transaction is about chains, right? And so once you break that chain, it's difficult to generate more. And remember, the business is not just operating by taking people's money and then investing. Remember, there are other stakeholders in there who are employees and all those, you know, in there. And there are other liabilities as well, which goes beyond just the investment that you've kept in. So you are thinking about having more kind of investment so that you can satisfy all those obligations.
How about robbing Peter to pay Paul? It's not the same.
That's quite straightforward. You see, it's quite straightforward because if you understand, you know, the investment world, it's not necessarily just robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yeah.
All right. So now we have a certain moral issue now. A moral issue, I'm thinking, they seem to have gotten the buy-in of the public.
Sure.
So there's an emotion attached to the way they are operating. Now we have the regulators, the institutions now putting a brake on them. And then we have the political angle, in which the moral issue mixes with the political angle. You're stopping our investment, employment is low. Yes, yeah. And you are not making any effort politically, even though you have an independent regulator or regulators who are taking action and you are looking on.
Yeah.
How do we mix all that?
Very good. You see, companies can start on a wrong foot, right? We've had it happen in the banking sector, for which you even need some minimum level of capital requirement. We've seen banks started without, you know, those, you know, minimum capital requirement, but in the end, they are operating. Now, the moment the company grows to assume a certain stature, the stakeholders broadens, for which you have employees, you have national interest to the extent of having taxes and all those from the company. So if we get to that level, you need to manage the situation. We've had situations where companies collapse, even the employees don't even feel it, that it has collapsed. We've had companies that has been ceded to other companies for which those working there never knew that their company is being owned until later on when all the background works has been done and for sure we are sure of the system.
So you're saying in this instance, what should have happened?
Right? It's about the information management. What the public should have gotten to know. And I can say also that the analysts following these stories through are not helping because of bits and pieces through which the information comes. Such situation, you manage it carefully because the stakeholders has broadened, right? It has broadened to the extent of getting to a level. So you manage it to a level where the public, you know, information should come, but then in the end, it should come at assurance level.
In other words, are you saying that the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Bank of Ghana, and the analysts and what we do as media,
they are not helping the system.
We seem to be creating some panic in which now people's investments are stuck in there.
More chaos.
More chaos, trust me.
Okay.
Yes.
My last question before we go. I mean, I kept reading about, you know, all sorts of things the media is churning out and all the Ponzi schemes and all that. Now we have a number of peer-to-peer schemes around where people gain a lot of money and all that, or interest, so to speak. Couldn't Can't we have just allowed the system to work, in which people bring in more investment? We keep paying 10% dividends each month, or however it was, and just let the system oil itself. I mean, nobody would have lost anyway.
That is a very good question, but you don't know where it will become dangerous. As we speak now, the level where it finds itself, the Ghanaian economy is operating below capacity, for which there are several empty pockets, for which there's kind of appetite for money. So whatever money that drops down, right, has something to do. But then you don't know the capacity of those in operation, that kind of operations, for which if we don't take care, the entire economy can slip into their pocket. For which if we don't take care, they can amass wealth to a level where, you know, they can finance terrorist activities. They can amass wealth to the level where they can finance political, you know, activities for it to create chaos in the country. So we don't know that threshold. But as we speak now, if you ask me, I can tell you that, okay, fine, we can allow it to operate because we need money, right? And if someone is generating and people can get jobs and all those, but we don't know that threshold as we speak now as a country. So we won't wait for it to get to that threshold before we go and stop the situation.
That's all financial regulators do in all the developed markets, right?
Sure.
To make sure there's control.
Exactly.
Oh. But it could have still continued, but you never know.
Well,
that's what you're saying.
That will be at the hindsight.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, for the Menzgold customers out there, I mean, I'm sure you know people who have invested. I know people personally. I know friends who have invested in there.
I have a friend that we go for.
I don't have only a friend. I have friends who have invested in there, and even well, I can't say personal issues here, but it looks very enticing. You know, 10%, I get it, I'm cool off, and 8% if it's below a certain threshold. So right now, what would you say to them? What can you say to them now that they have their money in there, the company can't pay, or they are liquidated principals,
right,
etc.?
Right. You see,
when you do an investment and the investment promises you more than what the market can give, it's quite dicey. We call something risk premium. You've enjoyed some premium when you're enjoying the 10%, which builds up into about 120% every year. At that point, the market on the average on any financial investment is about 33%. So look at the difference between the 120% and then the 33%. Trust me, there's a huge risk premium. And that premium is your insurance. Do you get what I'm saying? So you had your money in there. When you were enjoying the 10%, you could have looked at it as another investment that you could have put it somewhere or take up an insurance, because you should know that that high return is not sustainable. To the extent where you don't even know where your money is invested. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's quite problematic to tell customers that exercise patience, you get your money here and there. I cannot vouch on that. But then my advice is that when you are receiving in excess of the 33%, and I don't expect any, political figure or politician to come and say, I'll rescue the situation. No, it shouldn't be. Because these people have enjoyed some higher returns to a certain level, for which over the years, they could have taken another investment in the form of insurance. But if you understand the financial system very well, it's about information. If you don't have much information about any company, or you take on your own risk, right, then it means you have to, bear the brunt of that, returns that goes with it. You've enjoyed 120% in a year. That is huge.
What about the new ones? But as you talk about that, well, supposing, let's say we wake up and it goes bust, should the president or the government or the Bank of Ghana or, any other regulatory institution, the security agency, come to intervene?
I don't expect that. I don't expect that. Ghana, we need to understand and educate Ghanaians that if you take up any risk on your investment, enjoy the returns as it's supposed to be, you don't blame anybody on that. And more so in an environment where there are no taxes on interest. Do you get what I'm saying? There are no taxes on interest. You cannot go and rescue, depositors anywhere, anyhow, by committing taxpayers' money left and right.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Lord Mensah.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lord Mensah is a senior lecturer with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana, helping us understand the operations as it is of Menzgold and other like-minded businesses that tend to operate in such a fashion. But I end with one of the pointers following that study or write-up by Imani Africa. It says, the SEC, and we're talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission, has absolutely no justification in the manner it has proceeded so far. Refusal to produce information is under Section 34 of the SEC law, a matter of criminal law requiring police investigations, and it cannot continue to hide behind the absence of information to take concrete action to stem the systemic risks emanating from various unregulated investment schemes countrywide. And it continues and then says it is time to restore order and confidence to Ghana's financial sector, and we need all regulators to start earning their keep or resign if the task is beyond them. Well, so that will be it for our conversation for now. But we also know that we have done some rebasing of the Ghana economy. Now, we're told that we're around a structure of around, what is it? Is it 55 billion? Ah, that's huge.
Sure.
We haven't gotten to Singapore.
The economy has grown.
But from 2013, doing the rebasing, using that as a benchmark, what does it mean? What's the way forward?
Well, what it tells you is that, there are several, contributions in the economy that was being overlooked with the earlier base. So now, let's be current in terms of, the contributions into the economy. Now, with the rebasing, we're going to capture several companies, several sectors in the, computation of our GDP. But then the question that comes into mind is that, Ghana is struggling with its revenue generation, right? And so you ask yourself, what is the contribution of those sectors that are going to be included, right, in the rebasing to our revenue generation? So that for sure, if our economy has grown, it should grow in line with our revenue generation. But if it turns up that it's not like that, then we're going to see a huge economy for which the sectors contribution are very, very minimal. And therefore, you might end up looking at your GDP and all the computations that we do in relation to GDP will start coming down, right? So for instance, our debt to GDP will come down, our fiscal deficit will also come down, for which in the end, you say, okay, fine, you're falling within prerequisite fiscal deficit region that maybe the IMF requires. But trust me, it might not be realistic.
And that's the situation we have now.
That's the situation we're going to have now.
You're saying that we have a good economy, yes, based on what the macro indicators or benchmarks are, sure, but at the micro level, it's not impacting lives.
I've not driven to that side yet. I'm still at the aggregation level, at the macro level, for which you're looking at indicators like fiscal deficit. We normally relate it to our GDP. So GDP becomes the denominator. So once the denominator goes up, all those indicators will start coming down. So for instance, your debt to GDP will come down, thinking maybe you've got into a debt to GDP of maybe 63%, right? And you might think it is an achievement. But meanwhile, the economy that you've measured with the additions in terms of how you came to the rebase are not really contributing to the economy itself. So in the end, it might end up, reducing some of these indicators, thinking the economy is performing well, but it might not necessarily be. So therefore, the captures or the new ones that we've added into the, what do you call it, the GDP computation, we need to ensure that those sectors are really sectors that are more, contributing to the economy. Now, looking at our revenue, I always tie economy to revenue because it's very, very key. If you pay your debt, it's about revenue. Whatever you do, it's about revenue. If you do free SHS or any social policy, it's about revenue. So you need to look at what you are generating from these sectors. Well, as you brought them, and the tenet of the GDP computation.
I see, quite interesting. We just did a special Ghana Connect on Friday, giving us the indication that what we generate, 98% of it virtually goes into plowing back into emoluments and some expenditure that really don't impact. But in other relative economies, they have better manufacturing industries, good packaging for their product, and so they are able to close the trade deficits, the exports into different markets, and that helps to generate employment at the micro level.
Sure.
There's also movement of liquidity, and so you have key sectorial areas that are contributing to the overall GDP. How do we get there? Because ours is not good at all.
Yeah, very good.
You're looking at, you know, an economy that is quite a bit now in terms of its export. And we always ask ourselves that, you know, we've been increasing our debt, but then does the debt build up into our export? We've not realized that. Our export has remained traditional. I'm looking at a situation where, as a country, we will increase our debt, but then that debt will feed into diversifying export, just to accrue it purposely to invest in areas that are non-traditional to Guineans. So maybe going to maybe things that, you know, geographically we have advantage in growing, and for which the market is already prepared for it out there. So I believe that, I mean, we are accruing debt, all right, but then in the end, that should feed into how we diversify our export.
Currently it is not.
It's not.
Are you worried
Yes, I am.
that in the medium to long term, we're not even likely to show up?
Yes, I'm worried to the extent that, you see, anytime Ghana issued debt, chunk part of the debt is used to defray old debt. So you ask yourself, you know, the debt that we accrued, what did it do? You could see there are several countries with debt, for which some of them are not even bothered, you know, with their debt levels, because this debt builds up into their exports. Okay, so if you measure debt to export ratio, it's very huge. So whether the debt is highly concentrated at the local level or it's a foreign debt, right? It doesn't matter. The export is very, very key. So for me, I think we have to look at how we can diversify, you know, our export.
Rebasing. Is it necessary? Well,
Oh yeah, it is very, very important because, you know, economics is dynamic. The actors
Within the economy is also dynamic. I mean, probably when the economy was, the population of this country was about 18 million, 22 million and all. That was when we had our first rebase. And then now we are moving to about 30 million, you know, 30 million. So the economy has changed. I remember economics evolves around human activities. It's a humanity, you know, kind of program. So at the end of the day, you have to change as well. So it is necessary.
all right. But we need to do the right things. And we hope that ultimately we can get it right by way of policy and the intentions in an environment which is liberal, also encourages more competition. And so, well, if you want to show up your local industry, your local subsectors, how do you do that in the open market system in which everybody is invited, they are given incentives at the detriment of the locals? Do we have the teeth to buy? Do we have the strength also to make sure we stand up for the local sectors? Well, we'll see about that. And we've had Dr. Lord Mensah help us do the analysis on the intentions and the various reasons and expectations after rebasing. And we are hoping that we can continue that conversation. Dr. Lord Mensah is a senior lecturer with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana and helping us do that great conversation. But we have to go back to the studio. Please make sure that you keep the conversation ongoing. Facebook, JoyNews on TV regularly. We're there. And then also you can tweet at us, but also watch us live on My Joy Online TV, which is our channel on YouTube.
And that's Roland Walker live from the University of Ghana Business School in that conversation with Dr. Lord Mensah. We're back in the studio. We'll bring you showbiz in a bit. But before that, as a leader, you must learn to keep up in a rapidly changing world and be well prepared to respond to opportunities. Live to Lead is a leader development experience designed to equip you with perspectives and practical tools you need to steer your organization or business forward. Learn when and how to make a leadership shift from world-class leadership experts and return to your office ready to implement your new action plan with renewed passion and commitment. Live to Lead will be addressed by renowned leadership experts including John C. Maxwell, Daniel Pink, and Tyler Perry. The events will be simulcast in Ghana at the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Ridge, Accra, on Friday, 12 October 2018 at 12:30 p.m. VIP participants will also get the opportunity to learn from Ghana's celebrated playwright and CEO of Riverman Productions, Uncle Abel White, at a pre-event dinner and talk on Thursday, 11 October 2018 at the Sweet Spirit Alisa Hotel. For tickets, VIP going for 500 Ghana cedis, regular is 200 Ghana cedis, and if you're a student, you only pay 100 Ghana cedis. Now, here's how to pay. You can do so via mobile money on this number, 055 051 5391, 055 051 15391. Or you can go through the bank, through EcoBank on 037 307 451 7453801. The EcoBank account number 037 307 451 7453801. And if you want ticket, you can also call these numbers 055 051 5391 or 0540 708 433 and 0277 669 178. This event is brought to you by the Center for Transformational Leadership in Accra and supported by Goldfields Ghana. So there you have it. Let's bring you some show business right about now. It's brought to us by Awake Purified Water.